Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, worries that part of the EV battery plant in Windsor could move to Michigan. Plus, a woman says she's been living with a raccoon for a month and is desperate for a solution. First responders mark Survivor Day, a chance for people saved by emergency workers to say thanks. And part 3 in our gardening series, a student tells us about a plant with a special place in her heart. We begin tonight with continued warnings that hundreds of jobs at the electric vehicle battery plant are in jeopardy. City officials tell CBC News they're worried the company may move these jobs to Michigan if the Canadian government does not provide billions more in subsidies. Construction at a portion of the battery plant continues to be on pause while the federal government works out a deal with Stellantis and LG. The companies say Ottawa promised to reopen negotiations after the United States passed the Inflation Reduction Act. That act offers billions of tax credits for automakers to build battery plants like the one announced in Windsor. There are 2,500 jobs attached to the $5 billion Nexstar factory in this city. The MP for Windsor-Tecumseh says negotiations are in the final stages.
Absolutely. The negotiations right now are absolutely in the final advanced stages, those critical stages. But again, I can tell you that our federal government from day one has been there with unprecedented funding to secure this battery plant.
Now, the battery plant centers on 3 key parts. Most of the jobs are attached to the battery cell part of the plant. Construction continues at that site. There are also hundreds of jobs attached to the headquarters for research and development. Now, Unifor and Invest Windsor Essex tell us that the negotiations focus on the part of the plant that would build the modules. That's where 300 people would help build those modules that hold the battery cells. That is where construction has been stopped. Invest Windsor Essex says that they're hearing from U.S. counterparts that the plant and those jobs could go to Michigan, but it's not just about those 300 direct jobs. An official at Invest Windsor Essex says there are at least 700 spin-off jobs tied to that part of the plant. He says those are also at risk. Through the United States Inflation Act, they would offer $10 in tax credits for every module built. That would be the equivalent of about $3 billion in incentives over a decade for the Nexstar plant, if built across the border. A spokesperson for Stellantis and LG declined to comment today, but the mayor of Windsor did. Drew Dilkins urging people in the city to sign a petition to the federal government calling for them to finish the deal. Dilkins saying today that it would be unacceptable for Windsor to be, quote, shortchanged because of unfulfilled promises by the government. We will continue to follow the story, and we will have more details on our website. A Windsor renter is desperate to have a raccoon removed from her basement. She says the animal has been living in her house for about a month and that there's been no urgency from her property management company to deal with the issue. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more.
Okay, so we're going into the basement now.
That's where Kasia Green has an unwanted guest. Green and her 3 children moved into the main floor unit of a house on Dougal Avenue last month. Shortly after, she says she started hearing sounds coming from her vents and basement at night. Then one day, she saw a raccoon on her roof right by the chimney.
If you hear the noise, it is loud. It's like a cat, like a big cat. You can hear it rustling down in the basement. You can hear it rustling in the vents. You just hear it all night. It's causing me my sanity. It's causing me and my children our sleep.
RAM Property Management oversees the house. Since telling them about the issue last month, Green says they haven't done much. A pest control worker came out earlier this month, but Green says they only set up traps for mice or rats.
For the pest control gentleman, before he went downstairs, he wanted to hear the video. And when he heard the video, he even jumped back and was like, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, I was hoping you could tell me."
Here is Green playing the sounds she's recorded through the vent that she says are from the animal. In an email to CBC News, Ram Property Management said that due to the company's privacy policy, it can't comment, but said it deals with these issues in a timely manner. When pressed further on this, the company said that it is addressing the situation and they've sent contractors there numerous times. It said the issue will be resolved by next week.
There's a vent there that I just keep blocked.
Green says she was told by Ram to put boxes and chairs over her vents, leave the lights on downstairs, and play loud music.
How are we supposed to live like this, hearing this animal, having to board up our things, walking around boxes and things in our own home that I pay rent for?
I mean, no one wants a wild animal living in their home. Some of them may, carry parasites or diseases. So it's not something that we want to persist in a home, and it can be a public health issue. But it can also be an animal welfare issue.
Majid says Green can file applications with the Landlord and Tenant Board. In those, she can request to be reimbursed for any added expenses, like if she buys traps to catch the animal. But it's not a guarantee she'll get the money back. And due to delays at the board, Green's issue could go unheard for about 2 years. An animal removal company told CBC News that they don't recommend people try to remove a raccoon themselves. They say it's a safety risk and needs to be dealt with by professionals. But Green is desperate for this to come to an end.
I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Police are investigating a pair of suspicious fires. Both happened yesterday, one at an apartment downtown being called a deliberate act. This fire was called in Thursday afternoon. It happened at the 300 block of Glengarry Avenue, right by the casino parking lot. Police say someone set fire to a single unit inside the building. They believe it was an arson. Officers have an alleged suspect. No one was injured. And there, a big response to a fire at the U-Haul self-storage on Walker Road last night. This video was posted by someone inside at the time. No one was injured. Police say that it started inside of a storage unit, and the fire then spread quickly into neighboring storage spaces. An investigation is ongoing. Police saying that it is considered suspicious. The ships passing through Windsor's Port Authority will one day carry containers. It's a move that officials have pushed for, saying it will ease congestion on the 401 while opening supply chains.
We're all getting into the container game in the Great Lakes, because there is a pinch in the supply chain, and there's also a lack of options for industry to bring in and ship out by container without the delays through the congestion of highways, the congestion of East Coast ports.
The first step is a $27 million project announced today. Nearly half of that is funded by the federal government. That money will help build up the rail system to transport cargo. It's also going to add more warehouse space and add a new berth for ships. But the big goal is to get containers unloading at the port. The CEO says there are more than 1 million containers that come into Ontario by truck and rail each year. He hopes that the port will be able to handle containers by 2025. The federal government says it is bringing in immigration measures to help reunite more families and faster. It includes a new way to speed up the application process itself. Many call the changes much needed and long overdue. Olivia Stefanovic has the details.
I think these measures are going to benefit not just newcomers to Canada, but everyone who calls this country home.
The immigration minister announcing new measures to streamline a family reunification system under criticism for keeping too many loved ones apart.
Families are stronger when they're together, and we want to help them unite and prosper here.
To achieve that goal, Ottawa is introducing a new open work permit for spousal and family class applicants and extending permits for those who already have one for an additional 18 months.
It's exciting and amazing news.
This immigration lawyer says the move is long overdue.
It's definitely going to have an impact on families' ability to be reunited sooner rather than later.
I think it's a step in the right direction, certainly.
Applications who come through the spousal sponsor.
Others want the federal government to go even further by waiving a requirement for applicants to promise to leave Canada by a hard deadline.
It can be a very onerous requirement that is very difficult to overcome.
I swear.
Ottawa is dealing with a mountain of backlogs, caused in part by the pandemic and recent international conflicts.
The immigration system is broken. There's a 2 million application backlog that hasn't changed. I was just looking at it a few days ago. So this is an announcement that's patchworking a problem.
Ottawa is also introducing new processing tools to improve wait times. But for some waiting for their spouses to come to Canada, today's announcement doesn't inspire much confidence.
I don't see any added advantage unless we know how long it's going to take or at least get an estimation.
The government says it's using new technology to identify applicants who have a high likelihood of having their permanent residency approved. The immigration minister says the move has worked in 90% of cases so far. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Survivors and the first responders who saved their lives were reunited today. It was a touching day of celebration and a chance for members of the community to say thank you to their heroes. Full of emotion, Cherry Tolentino embraces the paramedics who kept her alive. She's one of several people at Survivor Day celebrating life and the first responders who came to their aid.
I feel grateful and blessed. Yeah.
It was a scary night in October when the mother of 4 collapsed, going into cardiac arrest, losing consciousness. She was unresponsive with no pulse.
So there's 3 of us in the truck. It was after midnight. We were super tired. We've been busy all night, and we got this call. When we arrived there, family was frantic, screaming on the porch, and the fact that there was 3 of us made a big difference because we were able to do everything just a little bit faster and get organized and provide all the care that we need to provide.
They performed CPR and rushed her to hospital. It was a nightmare for her family.
They'd been resuscitating for hours and hours and hours, and I followed them through. I was like, pajamas, and then after 4 hours, the doctor came in and say, this is not a good one. It's just in a critical condition. So it was just really, scary. Every day, there's no day that I, thank God and thank these people who save lives.
Tolentino stayed in hospital for a month to recover and had to learn to walk again. 6 months later, she's now back to work as a PSW in a long-term care home. She's grateful for every day, but especially this one, so she could say thanks.
So I was very thankful and also emotional because they're the one who was there on my very critical time of my life. I want to thank them.
You often wonder, especially after the pandemic and all the busyness of everything that's gone on and the overtime and the missed family events and just all these different things, you wonder, why am I doing this? And today answers that question very, very easily.
The day was also moving for the chief of EMS. It's his last Survivor Day before he retires in February.
I've been in the trenches. I worked my way up through the field and kind of cap off my career this way. I know what it feels like to drop a patient off and not know the outcome, and to have a day like today, it opens up the floodgates of emotions.
You guys are great. Continue what you're doing. You're such a big help to the community. And you're the heroes.
It was really touching to be in that room today and to hear about these positive outcomes. So wonderful to hear. Live look outside there. Beautiful conditions all week long, and we have a gorgeous weekend ahead. Kyle Kennedy will be with us after the break, and she'll tell us more. This week, we've introduced you to gardeners in our community, as May is the time to plant. You heard from a couple that's grown the same garlic for 35 years, and last night you met a newcomer from Iraq. Now we'll introduce you to a university student who started a business to help others grow their favorite vegetables. She also talks about a plant that is very special to her.
This is our greenhouse here. We help individuals and communities, especially immigrants, refugees, those who have origin that is not typically Western. We help them to grow their own ethnic and cultural vegetables in a sustainable way in North America. The ugu plant that's extremely hard to find here. I don't think I've ever seen that here before. And it's really popular in the West African community because it's so hard to find. But basically, it has a lot of health benefits. You make it in stews and soups and things like that. So I just think that it makes me nostalgic because having the opportunity to just go into my garden and then take those leaves and then cook them, it's not an opportunity that a lot of people get. It's something that I would never take for granted. It's really close to my heart.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at weather. Colette, another beautiful day, like we can't get enough of it, and it looks like more is coming.
Yeah, a lot more is coming. I was about to say folks are going to get sick of it. I'm not actually sure, but I've been loving these gardening segments, and I will say that it is going to be a little bit trying on the gardens after several days of this dry conditions. You're going to be needing to water them. So just looking at what's going on here, and I'm going to explain the pattern that's coming up too, but the daytime highs, with the exception of Kingston and Sarnia at 17, you just see a lot of 20s, 21, 22, all across southern and into eastern Ontario, and essentially back to seasonal, or at least close to today. But we'll start to find things building in terms of the heat as we roll forward now in time. So closer to the lake shores too, you see a little bit of the green on the contour. Of course, the lake keeps the temperature down a few degrees when you're in there. And the other thing that's been down has been the humidity. So this is, sunny and dry conditions we're experiencing in terms of those dew points being low as we move forward. So think as we're getting into next week, especially mid next week, the humidex values will start to come into play because it is going to get a little bit stickier, but nothing to be found. Quiet conditions on that radar over top of southwestern Ontario. We have to really broaden our perspective here to find the active weather with an area of low pressure to the west, and also what's brewing to the south here with the rainfall there near the mid-Atlantic. And that's part of the setup. In the States, they're heading into a holiday weekend, and through the Carolinas in this region, they're going to have this area of low pressure that essentially gets cut off. And when we have an upper low, and north of it, we're seeing this upper ridge in place and a very strong dominant one, nearly kind of stacked on top of each other. This is what we call a Rex block, this kind of pattern, and stuff stops moving. Anything that wants to go needs to go around it with the jet stream, and so systems don't really make their way through, and that's why we see day after day of sunny conditions. And as the high just begins to slide eastward and we get into the warm backside of it because of that clockwise circulation, that's as the temperatures begin to soar. And by the way, to the east of one of these kinds of blocking patterns, there tends to be very little weather happening either, because nothing can really get to it. So the outlook, nothing to worry about here. At times, some fair weather cloud, even the rain down there through the mid-Atlantic states. That's going to be there for a few days, and then it'll begin to peter out. But a lot of the cloud cover is going to hang in there as well. One more night, all right, where the temperature will be in a single digit, and then I'm anticipating our overnight lows in the double digits, because they're going to be mild too. Tomorrow morning up to 16. That's by about 8 a.m. Okay, very quickly we're going to find that temperature pushing up. By the afternoon, 24, and then we'll just kind of take it up a couple of degrees each day. And then by next week, we're mid next week, we're looking at around 30 degrees for those daytime highs. And carrying on, Katarina, beyond that, I expect too.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we go out west to see how the election in Alberta is going. Stay with us. Alberta is in the final stretch of its provincial election campaign. The vote promises to be a showdown between Premier Danielle Smith's United Conservative Party and the New Democrats under former Premier Rachel Notley. And a new poll conducted for the CBC has the UCP in the lead. The CBC's Julia Wong breaks down the results.
With just a couple days of campaigning left, a poll for CBC News suggests the United Conservative Party is poised to win a second mandate. Now, that poll shows that province-wide there is 52% support for the UCP and 44% for the NDP. But it's in that regional breakdown where things really do get interesting. The NDP are leading in Edmonton, and the UCP are far ahead in rural Alberta. But if you hone in on Calgary, it's a very different story. Now, that city is the battleground for this election, and the poll shows the two main parties are stubbornly neck and neck. 49% of people in that city support the UCP, 46% support the NDP.
There's 26 seats in Calgary, and easily half of them are up for grabs right now. So it's what it's all about. And you know, when we say it's a close election, it's not close in most of the province. It is close in those 10 ridings in Calgary. So watch everybody to be spending their weekend here trying to lock down those seats that are going to determine who forms the next government.
When it comes to approval ratings for UCP leader Danielle Smith and NDP leader Rachel Notley, it doesn't appear like voters see them very differently. Province-wide, Smith and Notley have an identical 42% approval rating from voters.
I think in the case of the NDP, most people voting for NDP feel very positively towards their leader. The UCP, it's more of a mixed bag. Some people are voting for the party and ignoring the leader.
Interest in this election has been high. Advance voting opened on Tuesday, and about 500,000 people have already cast a ballot. Now that will wrap on Saturday, and then it all comes down to Election Day on Monday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
A pod of killer whales attacked a sailing boat off the coast of Spain yesterday.
Yeah, oh my God.
3 orcas repeatedly rammed the boat, causing extensive damage. A rescue team had to tow the vessel to safety. Officials say there have been 30 attacks by whales already this year. Curious experts wonder whether it's an attempt at play or something else triggering the whales. There are plenty of theories, including one that the lead orca was seriously injured in a collision with a boat and is now leading a charge to fight back. Canada's Walk of Fame is continuing to grow with 11 new inductees permanently added to Toronto's entertainment district. The special ceremony marked the 25th anniversary of the Walk of Fame.
We're excited about envisioning a more impactful and a more interactive garden of achievement around these important stars in the ground in the heart of downtown Toronto. Imagine 25 years ago, right here, our city was different, our world was different.
Movie star Keanu Reeves, singer Julie Black, and retired professional wrestler Bret Hart were among the big names recognized Friday. They're part of the Walk of Fame's class of 2020-2021. The special ceremony also honored actor Graham Greene, singer-songwriter Bruce Cockburn, and track and field athlete Damian Warner. They're all now part of a group of 200 Canadians inducted over the past 25 years into Canada's Walk of Fame. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can also always find us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather.